name is Christine Harding, and I am with the Cyber Center for Education and Innovation, and out of the National Cryptologic Museum Foundation. And we are here with a wonderful speaker today by the name of Bridget Brown, who is a workforce consultant with over 25 years of experience in developing programs that support enrichment of job seekers and enhance the competitiveness of businesses. Bridget Brown has led a variety of initiatives that addresses workforce innovation and poverty solutions. So she's going to talk to you today about the opportunities that exist for cyber apprenticeships. Bridget, it's all yours.
All right. Let me see if I can get these slides to work for me today. Thank you. Thank you. It's great to be here to talk about one of my favorite topics, apprenticeships. And we're also going to talk about a little bit about how you can use an apprenticeship model to actually start your career. So we'll kind of go over the basics of apprenticeships and really how you can apply it. So you really can't even look on the news anymore without hearing about some sort of a cyber attack, some sort of hacking activity these days. It's becoming a really scary place with lots of at least virtual monsters out there, or maybe people behaving like monsters who are trying to get your data. You see a couple of statistics on the screen here. What I didn't put out there is that about 62% of businesses get attacked each year. And about 70% of business leaders consider cybersecurity attacks one of their greatest concerns moving forward. Hackers attack about every 39 seconds, which sort of translates to a little bit over 2,200 times a day. So it's really prevalent out there, and we have a really strong need to be able to defend our systems and our people from these attacks. But at the same time, we see this other part of our economy. For the last few years, we've had a pretty strong overall economy, but we've seen shifts in the economy before, and we're experiencing one right now. It can be hard to turn the news on these days and not see a reference to what's going on with the current COVID-19 and the impact it's having on people's jobs and livelihoods. And when you think about the student loan debt and finding a career path that can withstand a global pandemic, it can get really scary, I can imagine. And as young people really start to think about your future career plans, it's really got to be weighing on you. What can you do to find a career that you love that gives you the flexibility when things like a pandemic happens? What is, to the greatest extent possible, pandemic proof? In the U.S., there's a shortage of about 500,000 cybersecurity professionals across the country. Now, that varies from state to state, but overall, I think the last statistic I saw was about 500,000 shortages. And that is jobs that are available, but they can't find the people with the skills to fill them. And these are jobs that need a combination of education, but also really tactical, technical skills. Once you get them, however, you're on a great career trajectory with family-sustaining wages. So I mentioned that cybersecurity needed a combination of both education and skills. So the answer to the question, what if there was a way, is that there is. It's called an apprenticeship. And I'm sure you've heard the word apprenticeship before, and it probably conjures up a lot of different thoughts of what an apprenticeship is. But let's define it. Apprenticeship is simply this earn and learn strategy that combines on-the-job training, hands-on training, with related, normally in a classroom, instruction. So it blends the practical and the theoretical aspects of training in highly technical occupations. When you think of apprenticeships, you're probably thinking skilled trades, electricians, masons, manufacturing, because those are normally the careers associated with apprenticeships. But there are great career opportunities for what we call non-traditional occupations and apprenticeships as well. They're very, very diverse in today's economy. You can get an apprenticeship for healthcare, first responders, and of course, our favorite topic, cybersecurity. And we need that diversity. We need the diversity coming to the table, different perspectives, different backgrounds of individuals to solve what's becoming an ever increasingly complicated cyber world out there. So we need a range of men and women, people with diverse backgrounds, different racial and ethnicities to help us tackle these sophisticated cyber issues. And for you to look for a career that you want to enjoy, but that will also be stable in the coming years. And there's some great options out there. So let's talk a little bit more about what an apprenticeship is. So starting off, it's hands-on training. We all learn very differently, and many of us learn better hands-on rather than just having someone talk to us. In an apprenticeship, the apprentices get on-the-job training, which means you're going to be learning as you're doing it from an experienced professional. And you also, as a young person, will have a mentor. Apprenticeships last typically 1 to 5 years. For cybersecurity, that's usually 2 to 3 years where you'll have that strategy. It has an education with it. Apprenticeships you can get your education training sometimes it's at your career and tech ed program. Many times it's at a community college or a technical school. And the great thing about this is with an apprenticeship, you're getting paid to go to school. So the concerns around student debt aren't quite as noticeable with an apprenticeship. During the 2019 and 2020 academic school year, the average yearly price of tuition, room, board of a university was over $30,000 a year. Through an apprenticeship, you get it for free. So you also have long-term education and earnings. That's always important. You want to be able to progress in your career. Many cybersecurity apprenticeships will get your foot in the door, and then you need to continue your learning and your earning potential. But apprentices, when you come into an apprenticeship, you actually gain your salary increases for agreed upon milestone that you meet, which means the more you learn and are able to demonstrate that you can do, the more your salary increases. As we mentioned before, little to no debt. The average student debt of members of the class of 2018 was almost $30,000. So again, this way you're able to get your education and not be saddled with the overwhelming feeling of student debt right when you graduate. And you'll have a national credential. And this national credential or apprenticeship is something you can take with you from state to state. So again, you get the education, you get the hands-on training, you get a job on day one. So you're actually being paid to learn, which is pretty cool. And you get this credential that you bring with you. But let's apply it to cybersecurity, because that's what we're here to talk about. There are a lot of different career pathways, and we're just going to skip across the top of the waves on this one because we just have a few minutes together. But with a cybersecurity apprenticeship, we're going to prepare you for these entry-level positions, and you can see them all the way on the left-hand side. They can be something called like a cybersecurity specialist, a cybersecurity technician. In some areas, you might be working at a help desk. These are entry level. You go in, you get your foot in the door. Typically, you just need a high school diploma and some training like through an apprenticeship. But then you want to move up. You get a little bit more experience in the field and you start identifying areas that you may want to focus a little bit more on. So you can go back to school, get additional education, get additional training, and move up to that mid-level position. You might become an analyst or a tester or a consultant like I am. And with that, you get another increase in pay as well. And then you see the advanced positions as well. More education, more training, more demonstrative skills, the more money you can make, and the further you're going to progress in your career as well. But let's talk about actual numbers. So we're going to, in many youth apprenticeship programs, we are going to prepare you for these entry-level positions, right? These ones, if you can see my screen here, once you get in, and I just used an analyst because it's a very common occupation, can earn up to $95,000 a year. That's a lot of money. Now, you've got to get your foot in the door. You have to continue to learn and earn, but you're able to progress once you get your foot in the door. You're able to tie why you're going back to school with what you want to do and make some reasonable assumptions on what type of investment you want to make in your education and in your career. And then you can move further up the ladder as well. So again, it's combining that learning, earning, skills, education, and you can continue your career pathway. But at least it gets you the foot in the door. And many colleges now are even taking a look at building in apprenticeships into their degree grading program. So not only would you graduate with a bachelor's degree or associate's degree in an IT-related field, many institutions are also now looking at ways to give you that apprenticeship component. So you'll go in and you'll actually be working during your schooling. That helps answer that age-old issue that many of us, when we graduated college, ran into, saying, yeah, you have the education, but you don't have any experience. With an apprenticeship, you have that experience as well. So let's stop here for a moment, because I thought most of what we could do today is really just talk amongst ourselves and answer any questions that you might have about apprenticeships.
How competitive are apprenticeships?
It really depends on where you are. Typically, what's going to happen if you want to go into an apprenticeship, you'll probably be asked to do a couple of things. Number one, an interview. It'll feel very much like a job interview. You may also be able to take or be asked to take an assessment. And that's just to figure out whether or not this is going to be the right fit for you. So do you have any aptitude for IT? Do you have an aptitude for cybersecurity? One of the areas that we hear a lot of our employers talk about is, I need somebody with these technical skills, but I also need somebody with these employability skills. And many of you may have already heard teachers and parents and guidance counselors talking about employability skills, because you're going to need to be able to talk to clients, to interact with teammates, to interact with different people in your workplace. So that's the part of that interview portion, to make sure that you're going to be the right fit. So they can be pretty competitive, but if you've got the desire to do it and you've got the aptitude to do it, they're going to love to have you involved in their program, and you're going to be very employable.
Where do students go in order to find the apprenticeships?
They are starting to pop up more and more across the country. If you are in high school, what I would do is I would talk with your guidance counselor. Every state will have a list of registered apprenticeships in their state, and they'll be able to access that. If you're at the community college level, you can talk to your career center. If you're out of school, what I would do is talk to your area workforce board, or just log on to the computer yourself. Each state has a registered apprenticeship office, and they will list those apprenticeship opportunities for you. And you can just pick up the phone and call them, and they may be able to talk you through which ones are starting in your area.
Do all types of jobs have apprenticeships, or only trade?
To have an apprenticeship, you have to be qualified as an apprenticeable occupation, and there are about 1,200 apprenticeable occupations. When we talk about apprenticeships, we normally think of skilled trades, manufacturing, electricians, but more and more in the last decade, we've seen that broaden to healthcare, to first responders, to IT. So it's no longer just the skilled trades. We're realizing that apprenticeship, when you learn and you earn, are appropriate in a variety of different occupations and in different fields as well. Cybersecurity and IT being one of those.
What can I do to make myself more attractive to someone who's hiring apprentices?
I think there's a couple of things you can do. One of which is being able to articulate why you're interested in that apprenticeship. So think of it as almost a job interview. Why do you want to go into cybersecurity or IT or any other kind of apprenticeship? So really think hard about why you want to do it and practice articulating that, as opposed to when you're interviewing with an actual employer, you're going to want to do a little research on that employer as well. You can do that by a simple Google search. You can take a look at the different type of press releases that they may have put out recently to see the different trends, different areas. If they just decided to go into a new area of business, you can drop that into your conversation when you're doing your interview for them. Being able, as I said before, to articulate. It's the same as any other type of interview. Eye contact, handshake. Well, we're not doing handshakes in a virtual environment, but virtual high fives, appropriate grammar, all of those things that would prove to that employer, that person making that decision, if they want to bring you onto their workplace, it will let them know that you're going to be a great investment because they're making a considerable investment in you. Any type of background you might have on how you may have been working already, and you were given Employee of the Month, or you never missed a day of work. Anything that shows them that you've got these underlying employability skills, that you're terrific speaking with different people, and that you understand the basic concepts of IT and cybersecurity. They're not expecting you to be an expert because they realize what they're getting is an apprentice, and that you're going to need a couple of years of training to get you up to a level that is fully proficient. They just want to make sure that you're able to learn and that you're going to fit into their environment.
What is apprenticeships?
What an apprenticeship is, it's an education and training model, right, where young people or adults, but we're just talking about young people right now, can go into an area, in this case, cybersecurity, and get a combination of on-the-job training and education while you're actually employed. So you come in as an apprentice at a certain wage, and as you increase your skills and your education, they're going to increase your wages. So for those of us who learn better by doing, we're kinesthetic learners, don't give me a book, let me actually play around on my computer, it works really well in a lot of fields. So it's not an alternative to college, it's a yes and, right? So it's not an either or. It can help a young person get their foot in the door with an employer or even an industry and actually really think about how and where they want to continue their education as they take a look at the different career paths. But they're already working and they're already in the industry.
We have another question that says, what are the basic program components of apprenticeship?
Great question. So, basic program is number one, apprenticeship start and finish with an employer, which means that you will be working, you will be an employee. There is an on-the-job training component. There is a classroom education component, typically about 144 hours depending. There is mentorship, which means that on your on-the-job training, you're going to be doing it with an expert, someone who already has achieved that expert level. So you will be being mentored by an individual on that workplace as you do your on-the-job training. And it culminates with a national credential, and that credential goes with you. So it's not necessarily specific to the employer. So let's say you're living in Baltimore, Maryland, but your dream is to move to Portland, Oregon. You take that credential with you so that when you get to Portland, Oregon, it's recognized there as well.
This is actually a good opportunity. I did put this in the chat, but there is a website called cybersecurity.org, and it's a wonderful website for folks to kind of take a look at to see where the supply and demand are for jobs in cybersecurity. And it also provides a heat map of the U.S. So you can just take your mouse over Maryland, for example, or Oregon, whatever, and it will tell you the number of positions that are currently open right now, as well as what are the what jobs are already what jobs already professionals have in cybersecurity in that state as well.
That is a really great and interactive website. When I said earlier that there are about 500,000 open positions, but that they vary from state to state, Christine's right. You just put your mouse over that state where you live now, right? Or you're interested in moving, and we'll tell you how many of those 500,000 positions are in that state. It's a great website. Other great thing about that website is they have different career paths on there. So you can just go in there and explore, and it's free and it's regularly updated.
Can you do an apprenticeship while you are in college, or do you do it instead of college?
Yes, and maybe. So, can you do it while you're in college? Absolutely. So many, as I mentioned, not many, but we're seeing more and more higher ed educations, community colleges particularly, although I'm working with a collection of historically Black colleges and universities to actually create degree granting apprenticeships. So through your be it associate's degree or bachelor's degree journey, they will embed an apprenticeship. So that will help reinforce the learning you're getting in the classroom. And it also will ensure that you are actually employed when you graduate. Can you do it instead of college? Yes. In cybersecurity, you can do that, but be able to progress beyond that entry-level position, you're going to need to go back at some point and get more education and training, but it will at least get your foot in the door. You'll be working in an industry so that you can determine whether or not it's right for you. Lots of us went to college, we got our shiny degree, and we weren't quite sure that that's what we wanted to do until we graduated. And we're like, ooh, okay, this might not be what I want to be when I grow up. I was one of those, so I can speak from personal experiences. This, while you're learning, you're actually doing it. So it makes it a little bit, I think, more meaningful if you decide to pursue additional education after your apprenticeship because you know why. That age-old question, why do I have to learn this? It's going to tell you why. In some cases, and you'll want to check on this in the state that you're in, you may even get prior educational credit for your apprenticeship as well. Particularly at a community college level, they're taking a look across the country on how to get you credit for that on-the-job training that you've been taking through your apprenticeship.
So as a little bit of a follow-up to that is, so what's the minimum qualification for an entry-level apprenticeship?
In cybersecurity, high school diploma and aptitude. For an entry-level position like a cyber technician help desk. Now, some states have registered apprenticeships for slightly higher positions, but typically they just require a high school diploma and some sort of skill in that area. You don't want someone coming in as an apprentice in cybersecurity who doesn't know how to turn on a computer, who doesn't have the basic knowledge. And most young people, most adults, have a basic knowledge of safety, how to work around a computer. They're not expecting you to know necessarily how to do coding yet. They want to teach you their way of doing it.
That's important. We have another question. How does apprenticeship benefit the workforce system?
My favorite question, having spent 25 plus years in workforce. For those of you doing math, I was 10 when I started. That's what I'm going with. So when we take a look at the economy and the impact on the economy of unfilled positions, it's a drain on the economy. What really focusing on apprenticeships and cybersecurity apprenticeship does is a couple of things. It makes sure, or helps to ensure rather, that more people in your community are working, are earning a wage, that your businesses are more productive, not only because they don't have unfilled positions, but also because their assets, particularly in cybersecurity, are being protected. So that makes your businesses more viable, more productive, which therefore means they'll hire more and more individuals. When it comes to cybersecurity or many of the apprenticeships, these are good paying jobs. Entry level, you're still going to need to, continue on your career pathway with it. But once you do that, these are family sustaining wages, strong jobs that can be done anywhere in the country. And we've learned the importance of that in the last few months.
The students here are interested in learning more about apprenticeships. Where can they go?
They can contact me, and I'll put my slides that have my contact information up there. I might also put another handout which has some cool websites to take a look at, like CyberSeek and a few other ones. They can talk to their guidance counselor, who should have a list of different apprenticeship opportunities in their community, or at least in their state. Either one, and we will hook you up to the best of our ability.
Okay, and we got one additional question. How does an apprenticeship fit into the career pathway?
Many states, particularly when they're looking at youth apprenticeships, are aligning the curriculum so that you can even start your educational component when you're in a career and tech ed program, particularly around IT. If you're in a cyber academy, let's say you're in a Cisco academy, something like that, a lot of that might be able to count for your educational requirements of your apprenticeship. So they're trying to align that to make it a smooth transition as possible. Those career pathways and the underlying skills and abilities were developed through conversations with businesses, employers, trade associations. So we want to make sure the CTE programs, your community college programs, and your apprenticeship programs are all aligned so it's seamless.
Do you have any additional parting thoughts?
I think that the thing to remember, and it's true of any type of education or training program, is explore it. See if it's right for you. I don't know that apprenticeships are right for everyone, but I do think they're right to explore that opportunity and to learn more about it and talk to your parents and your guidance counselors about that as well, because it's not the apprenticeship model of 50 years ago. It's a new way, an old way, but we're just applying it to new fields, whether it's healthcare or cybersecurity, where you are guaranteed a job on day one of your apprenticeship.
Okay, did you get one from Tammy? I serve in a school rural in New North Carolina. Do you know of any organizations that may offer virtual apprenticeships in cybersecurity?
I actually do, believe it or not. I'm not sure it's registered yet. There's a group called, and you may want to just email me and I can give you some more information about that. In fact, I have a meeting with them this week. What is it called? Cyber Carolina Center? Carolina Cyber Center. That's what it is. They are creating, and right now, given where we are, their on-the-job training is being done virtually, I believe. And a lot of training providers are virtual. There are a couple other apprenticeships that are virtual as well. Well, the training portion of it. The on-the-job training has to be on the job. But the education component of it, you absolutely can utilize distance learning for that. So if you want to shoot me a quick email at bridget.brown@icf.com, I'm happy to give you some options. I don't represent any of the different apprenticeships that are out there. So buyer beware, if you will. But I'll give you some options for those, and you can see if those are right for you. If they're not, let me know, and I will try to find you some other opportunities as well.
Terrific. And we do have an additional question that came in. So when you're finished with college, can you stay with the company that you have apprenticed at?
Yes. You're an employee. You are a fully fledged employee. And our goal is that you do stay. Their goal is that you stay, because remember, they've just funded your apprenticeship. They don't want you to leave after they've made that investment. So they absolutely want you to stay there.
Okay. And the questions keep coming in. How do you get an apprenticeship? How much does a student have to pay to get an apprenticeship?
In most cases, the student pays zero. The cost is borne by the employer and or the apprenticeship intermediary, like your area workforce board. In some states, what you'll end up doing is leveraging some state money. Some states, let's use North Carolina as an example. If you start off in an apprenticeship, you can get your tuition to your community college waived. So there's some opportunities out there. It varies from state to state. So you're going to want to take a look on your state's apprenticeship website. If you don't know where to find that, shoot me an email and I'll give you a link to your state's. Well, you'll have to tell me what state you're in. And I'll shoot you a link to where you can find that information in your state.
Okay. And I believe you mentioned this earlier. But again, it's another question. Does your salary increase as you increase in level?
Absolutely. When you go into apprenticeship, typically you're going to start off at 50% of the ending salary because you're not proficient yet. And as part of your apprenticeship, you're going to already have negotiated what it's going to take for your incremental increases to get you to 100%. It can be a certification. It can be that your mentor who's working with you on the job says, yes, Bridget is now proficient at this, and they literally sign off on it. But they're articulated up front so that there can't be any monkey business on either side of that. And you've both agreed to that moving in to your apprenticeship. So there'll be incremental increases throughout the duration of your apprenticeship.
Terrific. And what are the basic program components of an apprenticeship? Did I ask that?
Yeah, again, they're on-the-job training, that hands-on learning. There are classroom training. There's a mentorship component. The fact that you've got an employer who has already given you a job, and that national credential at the end of it.
So I will leave up Bridget's contact information, and I encourage you to reach out to her. And as she said, she'll help you help put in the right direction of information for your specific state. We thank everyone for participating today. We thank all the questions that we received. Again, I'm Christine Harding with the Cyber Center for Education and Innovation, which is part of the National Cryptologic Museum Foundation. We thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to you joining us on other cyber chats. Have a good day. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.